Hello, welcome to Module 2 of the San Francisco School of Copywriting Bootcamp. I'm Amy Posner, and today's topic is headlines. You may remember that I told you in the first video that headlines are your key in, and sometimes you're going to tell your entire story in the headline, depending on what kind of piece of copy it is. Here's a couple of resources. People often ask me who to read. There's many, many more. Some of the older ones, Caples and so on. I think Bob Bly's Copywriter's Handbook is a must-have. Dan Kennedy's Ultimate Sales Letter, or any of the Dan Kennedy books, these are great references. Some of them are really good inspiration too. So let's talk about the headline functions according to Bob Bly. Speaking of Mr. Bly, you want to get attention, you want to select the audience, you want to deliver a complete message and draw your reader into the body copy. So much like we talked about in the first module, this is your big chance. You have, just a couple of seconds to capture their attention and to have your audience self-select. In other words, read the headline and say, oh, this is speaking to me, or it doesn't speak to me. Now, you are not looking to speak to every single person every time. So you want to select your audience and cast your net. That doesn't mean that everybody for whom your headline, hence your product or service is appropriate, is going to be interested in your headline, but you want to make sure that you do your best job of selecting the audience that you're trying to reach. Let's just show a couple of examples here. So direct and indirect. Direct might be designer jeans, 40% off Saturday and Sunday. That's pretty clear. If you're interested in a pair of designer jeans and you want them now, you're going to go buy them Saturday or Sunday when you can get them for almost half price. Indirect is drive faster. You bet we can. So you get the idea who that might be of interest to. Headlines are a great way to get inspired. They're an excellent creativity exercise, too. In fact, that's going to be this week's assignment, is to write a bank of headlines. And you'll always have headlines of certain varieties to go back to. Not each one will fit what you're writing for, but having done them, you'll have an easy jumping-off point to create new headlines. So the big, bold promise, it's almost unbelievable. It has the reader saying, what? Really? Lose 50 pounds in 30 days. That's a what? Really? Are you kidding? That can't be possible. Grow a full head of hair in just 3 weeks. The world's safest investment delivers an 11% return. Big, bold promise there. Guarantee. Lose 50 pounds in 30 days or your money back. Guaranteed. So a guarantee, which makes it even more impactful because it answers the question, what? How is this possible? With gee, it must be possible. They guarantee it, which draws your reader in and says, well, let me look at this a little bit further. And of course, it has to be true. So that goes without saying. So the headline has to be relevant to the reader. And remember, you're not writing to everyone. Don't make the mistake of trying to cast too wide a net and select everyone, and by doing so, select no one. And that's a mistake by trying to draw in too many people. That's why it's very important to know what your niche is, know what your unique selling proposition is, know who your target audience is, and write to them specifically. Michael Masterson has 4 U's for headline success. Everyone loves these little mnemonics. Urgent, unique, from Michael Masterson. So an urgent would be a reason to act now. And look how these build into more compelling headlines. So lose weight. Okay, if you want to lose weight, it's interesting. Lose weight this summer. Well, we know why people want to lose weight in the summer. They're wearing less clothing. Their body shows more. Lose weight in 30 days and look great for summer. So which is the more compelling headline? There's urgency. Now here, there's urgency in the offer in saying lose weight in 30 days, but there's also an urgency in our audience that we are trying to tap into. We know if it's March and it's April and people are starting to think about the summer, or maybe it's even May, and now May it's getting really late, and oh geez, if I'm going to show up at that reunion, or I'm going to be on the beach, or whatever it is, and they want to look better, they have a certain urgency that you can tap into. Unique, it says something different. Why Volvos are safe. Why Volvos are safer than 94% of vehicles on the road today. Now, interesting, this is a unique headline, but when we say why, now it implies we're going to go on and tell you why. If I just said Volvos are safer than 94% of vehicles on the road today, it's a statement, And you assume that I'm probably going to go on to tell you about that, but here's why. So if safety is an important issue for you, you might go, oh, why are they safe? I want to know. Let me read further. So that's just a little subtlety that has a better chance, perhaps, of drawing in the target audience. Ultra-specific, the one thing you must never say to your children. The one thing you must never eat in a restaurant. I'm sure you've gotten these in the mail. Those kinds of ultra-specific teasers are used a lot in those really annoying magalogs that come, and it tells you, the one thing you must never say to your children on page 77, and then you go inside, and or right there it gives you a little first paragraph, and then of course you've got to buy the book to find out, what the rest of the thing is, and they don't give you all of anything, which I find really frustrating. Useful, benefit-driven. Buy now and save $2,500. Join now and pay $19.95 a month for life. So it's useful. If let's say the join now and pay $19.95 a month for life is for a gym, and you've been thinking about joining a gym, and I really should, but it's expensive, and so on and so forth. But then you see, wow, I could join now and pay $20 a month for life. That might just be the motivation you need to go in and do the thing that you want to do anyway. So the practice is going to be creating headlines using each of the 4 U's. And I used a dental practice here as an example. Any ideas that you have that you want to write headlines about, please do. When we get to the assignment part of the presentation at the end. So let's look at some examples of headlines in real ads. So I told you already that I'm not a fan of cute and forgettable. I just think gimmicks don't deliver. Maybe it was okay in the 50s, but it ain't okay now in the era of social media and video marketing. Here's an ad here. I don't know how well you can see it in the video, but it's a man here who's an insurance agent, very nice face, nice warm smile, and it says, because you never know what you might run into. And there's an old styly cartoon here with a little car hitting a pole, and there's all this steam coming out, and there's actually like a little gorilla-y kind of monster in the steam. So, and then underneath all he had was his name and phone number and so on, which I removed to, to protect his privacy a little bit. It's cute, but here's the thing. If you run into something or you have a car accident, there's a lot of really big emotional points that you could hit about protecting your family, about protecting your life, protecting your investment in your vehicle, because you never know what you're running into. It's cute, but it doesn't really touch anything for anybody. In fact, it might make you groan. And so it's really a waste of good marketing dollars, because it doesn't tell me what this nice gentleman is going to do for me, as in protect me. And I'm sure you could think of something much more compelling that would touch into an emotional trigger point about having a car accident and being prepared or being protected. Do you have enough coverage? Do you know what your coverage is? I recently had to go over an insurance policy and talk about all the deductibles and possible coverage, and frankly, it made me want to put my head down on the desk with fatigue. There's a lot of details, but it's something you need to think about. You're required to have insurance, and you want to make sure if something happens, you damn well want to make sure you have the right thing. And so it's an important thing, and there's a lot of pain points that you could hit. Enough said on that. This one, you can't read the ad, but loose, saggy neck skin. Can any cream cure turkey neck? And this is written in the style of, Dear Doris, I'm a woman, I'm 64 years young, blah, 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 it goes on. Dear turkey neck, and she tells her about the cream. And, that's pretty clever, actually. It's quasi-advertorial style. But here's the thing. The headline is very direct. If you have loose, saggy neck skin, you know who you are, and you would be drawn into this little ad to see what it is. And, it's it's very clearly geared at middle-aged and older women who know what turkey neck is and, don't want it. They want to avoid it. Here's a little ad that I think does a great job for a small ad. And it happened to be in a magazine where there was no other ad that I thought was half decent. And here shows up this little ad, Do More, Hurt Less. So this ad does a lot. Do more, hurt less. Obviously, it addresses pain, but it also addresses sort of a cultural norm, or something that we all want to do, is do more. That's everyone gets status for doing more and being busy and accomplishing. it wasn't always true, and hopefully it won't always be true, but it's true right now. And so it taps into that as well as tapping into the idea, real straightforward. If you're in pain, you can do less. They do another great thing here, which is their subhead, so it's do more, hurt less, fast relief for muscle pain and stiffness. It's their box. So not only is it their subhead, but it's their box. So now they've created some brand recognition. So if you go into the store, you're going to have seen that box before, and it looks familiar. And things that look familiar tend to have credibility, and we trust them. That's why I said in the first module, people typically have to see something 7 to 9 times before they believe it's real. But once you have seen it that number of times, now it becomes familiar, almost friendly. And that, believe it or not, builds trust. So the third thing that they do that's really clever is they put in a coupon. So they can actually track how well does this ad pull. People can clip out the coupon. When they get the coupon back, they know, they've introduced someone new to their product, or someone that doesn't necessarily have to be someone new, but someone's bought the product, and they know that this ad is pulling. The coupon is tagged, so they know it was in what issue of what magazine and when it ran. And it gives people a reason to take action, and the coupon has a date at which it's no longer valid, and they don't give people that long to use it. So it gives people a sense of urgency as well. So I just thought overall this was a great ad, really well done. Here's an ad. Actually, this is from a website, and this is one that I did. Would you like to look and feel 10 years younger in the next 10 months? So, if anti-aging is for you and you'd like to look 10 years younger, you know who you are, and we select the audience. It's actually the top of a very long web page that you can see there's a video on it, and it sells a number of propositions here. But you look 10 years younger. What have you done? So how would you feel if you heard that over and over again? You can look and feel 10 years younger just 90 days from now. Our new breakthrough natural anti-aging science works at the cellular level to repair your body from the inside out. And then, of course, we go through and tell the story. But what we've done here, and why I have the arrows, is to point to, what's important. 10 years, would you like to look and feel 10 years younger in the next 3 months? Yes. Okay, so now we want them to say yes. So we point to yes. We tell them yes. And then, of course, it says, yes, I'm ready to look and feel 10 years younger. And then you look 10 years younger, what have you done? So those are the 3 key points that we made stand out, because that's what I want people to read. And everything else is filler around it. And then we go on to describe why people age and what happens and what the process is and why you can actually reverse that. Here's an interesting headline. This is a company that does a lot of products geared toward a senior market. And this is for a shower that you can step into, and it opens up, and it's very easy to get into. And they say shower easily, shower safely. Now, those are okay, but what's really interesting is they've buried, I think, their best benefit here in the bullets, which is regain your independence. Don't you think that's the emotional pull? If you can't shower by yourself, don't you think you want to? Don't you think that's something that people just do not want help with? Who wants somebody in there with you, helping you to bathe, especially if it's a caregiver or something like that? It's just, the less you can do, the more you want to do, and the more fierce you feel about your independence. I thought regain your independence would be a great headline, and then shower easily, shower safely, I thought would make a great subhead. So I just think it was interesting because they actually have the biggest benefit, I think, but it's buried. So sometimes that happens too. I mean, I find that happens with me. I'll write things out, and the thing that I pull out as the headline or as a key point turns out to be a secondary point, and somewhere buried in there is the real good idea or the really good headline. Here's a good example of that. Here's another one. This is another one of mine. This actually pulled really well. How to break, and this is, by the way, this is also a very long web page, sales letter on a web page. How to break into a lucrative career in investment banking and fast-track your way to top-tier bonuses and the best exit opportunities once you start working. So this is for a very, very specific market. I've done a lot of writing for this particular client that has a product called Breaking into Wall Street, and they have all kinds of products for people looking to break into investment banking. And their video products. This pulled extremely well for them, and there's a lot of great, well, I shouldn't say that it's my piece, but there's a lot of good copy in here that I think really worked, and we talked a lot about the problems they have, and a lot of the problems that they have is their competition. I've left this one in here because this is really controversial. I've used this before in classes, and for some reason, some people love it, and some people think it's the stupidest ad they've ever seen. I think it's somewhere in the middle. And this company, Big Ass Fans, that has this fan called the Haiku, which you see here, they do a lot of advertising, a lot of expensive advertising, and they've really changed, what they've done over time. But a lot of it is like this. It's meant to grab your attention. I liked it. I thought, what they're playing on the fact that ceiling fans up until pretty recently have been really, really ugly affairs, but they work great. Ceiling fans are really nice to have. So if you love your ceiling fan, ignore this ad. So, of course, people are going to say, love my ceiling fan. It's, an ugly piece of crap. What's this? It's very elegant looking. And it turns out that it's really efficient and interesting and has a lot going for it. Here's one that I love. This is out of a Valpak. We cover ugly, cracked concrete. I mean, how much more straightforward can you get? And then they've got this before and after picture, where it looks ugly and mossy and disgusting, and then it looks nice and clean and well kept. And that's it. I mean, if you have ugly, cracked concrete, you know it. If you're sick of looking at it, you know it. I think it just was really, really well done for a simple ad. And I see a lot of these Valpak ads that are just real groaners. Here's another one of mine. Now, this is Kevin Anderson, MBA. This is his stationery. So keep that in mind. It's not really meant to be a headline, although it kind of looks like one. And we've got a tagline that can serve as a headline, so designed specifically to use in marketing like this. But for women only, are you uneasy about your financial future? There's a clear and simple path to financial security. So we're targeting women. We want women to know that this is just for them. And if you're uneasy about your financial future, then you know that this is for you. And this was to sell a workshop, and it worked really well. Here's one that I thought was a real interesting missed opportunity, because they've got a great little line here over to the right, get in your garage every time. But it's definitely below or sub to LiftMaster, which is the brand. I mean, unless LiftMaster, says top of the line, and I don't know if it does. Perhaps it does, and forgive me if it does, then I'm wrong. If you know LiftMaster and you see that and you go, oh, state-of-the-art, top of the line, like if you see, an ad for Mercedes-Benz, for example. But get in your garage every time. Now there's a good headline. If people have an issue of not being able to get in their garage when there's no electricity, that would be a big deal. Here's a battery backup system is what they're offering, and it's really clever. It could be get in your garage every time, get in your garage even when there's no power, get in your garage during a blackout, get in your garage should disaster hit. They've got the right idea, wrong placement. So let's go to some headline tips, things to think about when you're writing a headline. So first and foremost, and this is true no matter what you're writing, you want to know, who are you writing to? Who am I writing to? And remember, you're writing to that one person. We're not writing to all of the people that we hope will read what we're writing. We're writing to that one person at a time who's reading the piece. And we want to talk about their challenges, problems, and desires. And I think the problem, agitate, solution formula, which is Dan Kennedy's formula that I mentioned last time, is a really good solution to keep in mind, because if you think about it, then you know exactly what you need to write, and you have something then to measure your copy against. So you talk about their problem, you agitate their problem by talking about the things that can happen as a result of their problem, which they already know, and now you come in and provide a solution. And we know that using that formula builds trust and credibility, because people believe when you understand them and really know what they're going through, then your solution is likely to be valid. What are the key benefits and features? What action do I want them to take? And this will help you focus. In the words of Stephen Covey, I always think of the begin with the end in mind. So when you know what it is that you're trying to accomplish at the end, then you know what you need to say at the beginning. And sometimes, the headline isn't the thing that gets written first. You may write the whole piece and then extrapolate the headline. I very often will write some sort of placeholder headline that isn't really a headline, but is the idea of what I want the piece to do, and then I'll write the whole piece. And then very often I'll go through and I'll find that I've actually got the headline or the subject line somewhere in the piece, that I've already written it, without thinking about it too much. But it's an important thing to think. And then think about, And so you write several, let them sit, get on with the piece, come back. If you don't have anything in mind, then just write the piece and come back and just see what evolves as you're writing. So let's just go for a brief recap here. Headlines should be specific, intriguing. Never the whole story, but drill into the lead and big idea. And when I say never the whole story, that might sound like a conflict. When I said earlier you want to tell them everything, it should be enough to capture their attention but encapsulate the idea. And I realize there's a subtle difference there, but what we want to do is draw them in. We want the reader to, in effect, raise their hand and say, yes, this is me, this is for me. But you don't want to tell them the whole story. Like, think back to the headline, why Volvos are 94% safer than any other vehicle on the road. Well, the headline can't tell them the whole story, but it's enough to identify the audience, capture their attention and interest, and begin the process that makes them want to look at the rest of your copy. So remember, subheads should read as the entire piece. So in other words, I should be able to read the headline, go through and read the subheads, flip over or scroll down to the PS, and be able, by looking at those pieces, to know what the main idea is. And so you hang your big ideas on the heads and the subheads. So if you can go through and understand the whole piece by reading the headline and then the subheads, each subhead goes into some detail. Right, so here are these sections, and if somebody were to eyeball a subhead, they can go in right at that subhead and read more. Yet you need them to all hang together. One idea needs to build to the next, so that it has a flow. So let's look at some of these various types of headlines that we talk about. So one is the if I could talk, it would help. One is the how-to headline. Dale Carnegie's great headline that everybody knows: How to Win Friends and Influence People. It was a title of a best-selling book that's been a best-selling book for years and years and years. How to lose weight and still eat all your favorite foods. How to get in better shape than high school athletes in 1 month or less. And so you see, while these are how-to headlines, they're also, I think, would fall under the category of ultra-specific. And, what we want to do, so say this is a weight loss program where you eat all your favorite foods, but I don't know, you get to eat a tablespoon of them. I don't know what it would be. I just made up the headline. But if someone who has been dieting and they've been on diet plans and they've been eating shakes and bars and whatever other program is out there, and they say, they know they need to lose weight still, but they're so tired of not eating their favorite foods, and they'll now be drawn in to read the copy. The question headline: Why do most heart attacks occur on Monday morning? Why don't your kids listen to you? Are you sick of your job? Do you have enough money to retire? So these hit on very particular targets. But again, the question implies that you're now going to provide an answer. So if someone has, kids that don't listen to them, maybe they've got, a couple of teenagers, they might say, oh, yeah, why? Is there a way I can get them to listen to me? They're in. Somebody who's worried about their health or their heart health, might want to read why most heart attacks occur on Monday morning. You might just be interested whether or not you are worried about your heart health, because it's kind of curious and intriguing. Benefit headlines: Earn $2,000 extra each month. Your dog will obey your every command. 3 simple techniques you can learn and use immediately. Now, with the 3 simple techniques could be a subhead. Depends again on what type of piece you're writing. If this was a small ad, that might make a great subhead. It might even be the body copy. Lose 40 pounds this month. Pay 40% less tax this year. So these are all benefits. This is telling you exactly what will happen. We haven't told you how, but if you'd like that outcome, then read on. Then there's the journalism style headline. It's news style and fact-oriented. Newly discovered enzyme aids hair growth. Dental technique eliminates patient stress. Might say new dental technique, or a revolutionary dental technique eliminates patient stress, because that implies that it's something new and different. I think actually that would be a good thing to add there, because we don't want them to think, oh, it's some same old. Because if you're afraid of the dentist, and there's some staggering statistic. Ghost wrote a book for a dentist last year. I can't remember what it is now, but the vast majority of people are terrified of going to the dentist. So revolutionary dental technique eliminates patient stress. Hormones improve skin tone and wrinkles. It's meant to read like it's a news headline, just that. It's a story. So you know how news headlines work. You read the headline and decide if you are further interested to get into the story. But these are written, of course, with a specific target market in mind. Then there's the fear-based headline, tapping into the fear to get their attention and addressing current problems or problems they might experience down the road. Do you have a plan for identity theft? 32% of Americans will experience some form of identity theft this year. Are you prepared? You might make it even scarier and tell them, what happens if you lose your identity, because not only do you have to worry about your bank account and all your private data, but you're now going to spend tons and tons of time recovering your identity. I mean, the endless phone calls and paperwork, and in a way, I think for some people that might be more terrifying than everything else that could happen. I think it might be for me. I know a couple of people that's happened to, and it's been an absolute nightmare. So maybe that could be worded a little bit more strongly. Most people would rather die than speak in public. Does your writing sound like an 8-year-old? So if you have to, and I think most people would rather die than speak in public. What would be a good subhead for that? Because if you have to speak in public, and that's you're like, oh yeah, yeah, I would, but so what? So what would a good subhead be to say, learn to, that would, in essence, these wouldn't be the words, but learn to speak without fear, learn to speak with ease, learn to deliver a 15-minute talk on any subject without cracking, one drop of sweat, something like that. Does your writing sound like an 8-year-old? If you're in business, perhaps, and you have to write correspondence, and you know that everything every I was going to say every time you put pen to paper, but who does that anymore? Every word you write, makes you feel embarrassed and ashamed. That'll pull you in. Then there's the damaging headline admission. I love the damaging headline, the damaging admission in all kinds of copy. And what the damaging admission is about is featuring the problem. If there's something that's embarrassing or uncomfortable, you feature it. You just put it right up front. And I love that because it just has a certain realness to it and a certain quality of honesty that I love using the technique. But the damaging admission headline, traditionally speaking, are things like this. They laughed when I entered the marathon. They thought I was crazy to travel 3,000 miles to get a date. High school dropout built multi-million-dollar business. I lost 30 pounds and never got off the couch. And you remember the famous, perhaps you don't, but the famous Charles Atlas campaign. It used to be in comic books all through my childhood years. It was always on the back page of the comic books. And it was, the 97-pound bully at the beach who got sand kicked in his face and then took the Charles Atlas course and came back, this hugely buff guy who, now is the envy of everybody on the beach. But it was all damaging admission. Then I think the famous, they laughed when I sat down at the piano. But then when I began to play, that was a headline that launched the home study music business. I can't remember the name of the institute. It was somewhere in the Midwest. Famous headline that they used for years and years and years that pulled really well for them. Then there's the testimonial and evidence headline. I earned $3,200 in my first month with no experience. George learned how to make 6 figures every year with no professional degree. Diane lost 40 pounds in 1 month eating her favorite foods. So these are fact-based. This doesn't say you can lose 40 pounds, but gee, if Diane did, could I? What did Diane do? What subheads? What subhead would you use with Diane lost 40 pounds in 1 month eating her favorite foods? Think about that. What more could you say about that? So a good way to get started writing your headlines is make a list of words, just words, features, benefits that might fit the proposition that you're writing about. I told you already I'm a big fan of using index cards so that you can mix things up and eliminate the things that don't look right or don't fit. That just works very well for me. I like writing. I think well when I actually have a pen in my hand and a piece of paper. And sometimes it's just a good way for me to get started and get into a project. I mean, I don't do most of my writing by hand. In fact, I hardly do any of it. But I do this creativity process very often by hand, and I find it gets the wheels flowing. Speaking of which, music can do that too. If you're sitting down to write and you're feeling antsy or you're feeling stuck or you're not sure where to get in, put on some music. For me, I have music that doesn't. I have a number of things that I use that don't have lyrics that just seem to work for me. I find the lyrics distract me. I start sort of singing in my head and thinking where the acoustic music just sort of gets my creative wheels turning. And supposedly, I mean, it does turn on the right side of your brain and gets your creativity moving. So do whatever works for you. And understand that everyone feels that sometimes. They feel antsy or they don't want to sit down or they don't think they have ideas. And, just like a lot of things, the solution for that is to just do it. Just sit down and start. It doesn't matter what you write. Sometimes, I'll find at the end of the day I've got a project I know I have to work on and I'm tired. The end of the day is not my best creative time. But what I'll do is I'll just sit down and do a brain dump about any possible ideas that I have for the piece that I'm writing. And when I come back to it fresh, I'll find that I've usually got one or two things that are worth working with, and then I don't have to jumpstart the process. I've already got something that I'm already in, if you will, even though it sometimes feels painful, but I make myself do it because I know from experience that very often what I'll put down at the end of the day turns into some kind of workable product when I sit down to work on it, and I don't have to do as much thinking or get into it. I've already gotten into it somehow. I don't know if that makes sense to you or if it will work for you, but I find that works really well for me. And like so many things that you do, particularly on your own, it does take discipline. It takes discipline and focus. And, if you're thinking about a career as a freelance writer, if you can bring discipline and focus to bear, and if you have a good solid work ethic and aren't afraid of marketing yourself a little bit, you can build a great six-figure income writing copy, and it's a very portable, flexible career, in that you have a laptop will work. You can really work anywhere. As long as you find that you can concentrate anywhere, which I find that I wish I could, but I can't always. So I have a very specific work set up in my office for my own, my own creative juices to flow. That just doesn't happen everywhere for me. But anyway, getting back to writing the headlines. So if you write them out on index cards, and I find this is true, and I think I mentioned this in the first module. If you're writing a web page or you're writing a sales letter, it's great to just write down ideas and be able to shift them around and actually look at them. I find I just can't do it as well on a monitor. You can move things around, but it's hard to look at everything all at once. It's hard to write as big as I like to write and still look at everything. And I just find there's something, again, with connecting pen to paper that really gets the creative juices going. And so, as you see here, don't not write until you have the headline. Even though the headline comes at the beginning of the piece, it doesn't mean it has to be the first thing that's written. And since it is really, in many ways, the most important piece, because looking at the headline is how people will decide if they're going to read further or not, you don't want to just write it just so you can get started. You may want to put something that's a placeholder and come back to it later and see what evolves. But it's a very important piece, and you want to make sure that you give it its just desserts. And as we're talking about that, we'll talk more about this later. But let me just throw it in as it's on my mind. When you're writing a sales letter, something that's actually going to be delivered through the mail, the envelope teaser copy becomes very, very important, because what needs to happen if that letter is going to get written is the envelope has to get opened. That is the very first thing that must happen, and most of us sort our mail over the recycle bin. Half the things don't even get opened. And so you want to have something, and it's a headline. It may not be the same headline that's on your letter, but you want to have something that's intriguing enough that they're going to open it. There's a lot of clever things that you can do, creating what Dan Kennedy calls lumpy mail, and I'm sure you've received lumpy mail at one time or another, that there's actually something in the envelope, and you can feel it through the envelope, and you want to know what the heck it is, so you open it up. And, you know, I've had all kinds of things, everything from like giant oversized sunglasses to little matchbox cars, you know, all kinds of stuff. In fact, I've got sitting on my desk here 2 pill bottles. I got two separate direct mail pieces that came in pill bottles, you know, just those plastic orange bottles straight up and down with a little cap stuck on them. And you can put anything in the mail, anything that you can get a postage sticker on and an address on, the USPS will deliver, to the extent that they deliver well anymore, but anything is mailable. And so there's some real clever ways that you can get something open. I mean, who is not going to open a pill bottle and at least glance at what's inside? And we've done all kinds of interesting lumpy mail packages, and also what Kennedy calls shock and awe packages. I mean, where you just send this crazy, interesting package to someone. We had a web designer a few years ago that I worked with, and we sent, in the Seattle summer, it was a hot summer, and we sent high-end sodas packed in dry ice in styrofoam with a media kit. And the thing got response because it was just so stunning and out of the blue to open it up and have these Jones sodas in there, and they were cool colors, and you know the media package was really nicely put together. It was an expensive package to send, but we didn't send, or he didn't send that many of them, and almost all of them resulted in some business, surprisingly enough. It just made enough of an impression that people wanted to know who Dan was. And interestingly, with a lot of direct mail pieces, and a lot of web pieces too, you know, the goal is to get somebody to take action, to request more information, to pick up the phone and call you, because once you know that somebody is interested, you can court them in a marketing sense over the long term. And so, you know, one of the best and most valuable things that you can do, and certainly with a website, there shouldn't be a website without an opt-in form. And next week we're going to talk about writing for the web. But, you know, it's a real waste of real estate if you don't know who's interested that comes to your website. I mean, literally, someone raising their hand by opting in for, you know, a free ebook or some valuable piece of information, a video series, someone who raises their hand and is interested is a very, very, very valuable commodity. Because not everyone's going to be ready to buy right now for a whole variety of reasons. But if somebody is interested and is a potential prospect, you want to have them to market to over time. And we will talk more about that as we progress. So this week's assignment is to practice writing 6 headlines for each of these types. You'll have them in the notes, you know, what the types are in their descriptions. And this is a common copywriting exercise. If you've taken a copywriting course before, you may have even done this. So the idea is that you have now a bank of headlines that you can easily go to and pull out inspiration and ideas. So, for example, if you want to do a how-to headline and you've written 6 headlines, you know, it's not a far transition from, you know, how to lose 30 pounds in 30 days to, you know, to doing something else, how to accomplish, you know, how to learn, I don't know, to play the piano in 6 easy lessons, whatever it is. But it just gets your mind going. And so a lot of people will have you create headlines and then refer back to them. Now, I'm going to say to you, again, if you are working on a specific project, why don't you go ahead and create headlines of these different types for your project? It's a much more difficult exercise to do all of these different types of headlines for one thing, but that's okay. You don't have to do 6 of each, but try something in each of the different styles, and it'll just give you a good opportunity to think about all of the different ways in. You know, how do I get somebody interested in this concept? So that's a wrap for this week. If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, just ping me on Facebook, and I will respond quickly. Thanks very much. Talk to you next week. Bye for now.